One porch light, left off for 6 years straight. Nobody needed it to leave. Neighbors assume a woman who never leaves must be hiding from something. Wrong. You built a life so complete you stopped needing an exit, deliberately, over time. You know the exact weight of your own front door closing behind the last visitor. So what is she protecting inside those 4 walls? Tonight, we answer it. Start with the word people reach for. Homebody, said kindly enough, usually. But underneath sits an assumption that a woman who prefers her own kitchen is missing something, avoiding something, or simply has not been asked out enough lately, so the story goes. Nobody says it about a man who spends his weekend in the garage. They call him focused. Say it about a woman in her own living room instead. And somehow it becomes a small diagnosis. You have heard the tone before. The slight pause before someone asks if you are doing okay, as if contentment needs explaining. Go back to where this started, because it did not start with age. It started decades ago, in houses that were loud in ways you did not choose. Maybe the house was full of other people's schedules, other people's moods, other people's needs. Arriving before you had finished your coffee, maybe you spent your 20s building a career that lived in open offices and crowded conference rooms. Your calendar never fully your own. Maybe you raised children in a home where the noise never fully stopped, ever. Where quiet was something you scheduled around a nap time and lost the moment it woke up. Somewhere in all of that noise, home became the one variable you controlled. 4 walls where the schedule was yours. The temperature was yours. The silence was yours. You did not fall into loving your house. You built it, room by room. As the one place nobody else got a vote, deliberately, deciding by deciding. Think about what the outside world was actually asking of you during those years. Every room you entered outside your own front door came with an unspoken performance attached. Smile at the neighbor even when you were tired. Make small talk with a stranger. Sit through a gathering calibrating your face to match everyone else's mood, constantly. Home never asked you to perform anything. It simply let you exist as you were. That is not a small thing for a woman who spent decades reading rooms for others. It is the first room in your life that only ever asked you to be yourself. Watch how it shows up now, in the ordinary hours of your week. Friday night arrives, and while others are getting ready, you are already exactly where you want. You know your kitchen the way a musician knows an instrument, which drawer sticks, which mug holds the right amount of tea, which chair catches the afternoon light. You have a specific way of arranging the pillows that means everything to you. You know which floorboard creaks and step around it out of habit, not caution. People assume this life is smaller. It is not smaller. It is simply undiluted. Every hour in that house is chosen, not filled by whoever invited you first. There is a cost, and it deserves honesty instead of defense. Some friendships thinned because you stopped auditioning for every gathering. Some family decided your preference was really a complaint about them, and no explanation ever quite landed. Not once, not fully. You have sat through holidays absorbing a comment about becoming a hermit, delivered with a laugh that was not entirely a joke, you noticed, and let it pass. There were nights you wondered if you were protecting your peace or avoiding your own life. And that question deserves more respect than a quick denial. Sometimes the answer includes both. And both can be true without canceling each other out, entirely, at once. There was a season, if you are honest, when the walls felt less like a choice, and more like a habit you had not examined closely enough, worth naming plainly. Instead of rushing past it toward a tidier conclusion, but look closer at the world outside. Small talk with people you would not choose twice, noise standing in for connection. An evening that cost energy you would spend the next 2 days recovering from. You did the math more than once, quietly, and the math kept landing the same way. A book in your own chair against a night of performing interest you did not feel. Staying home never meant less life. It meant you stopped paying with your own exhaustion. Even the errands felt different once you noticed the pattern, quietly, gradually. A quick trip to the store on a Saturday afternoon, and the small relief after. of coming back through your own front door, the sound of it closing like a held breath released. Here is the part almost nobody names. Loving your home is not withdrawal. It is discernment, sharpened by decades of knowing exactly what drains you and exactly what restores you. That is not a smaller skill than socializing. It might be a harder one. Most people never learn this difference at all. You learned it the hard way, in enough loud rooms to know the quiet one. And once you learned it, you stopped mistaking every invitation for an obligation. An invitation became a question you were finally allowed to answer honestly, instead of a summons. There was a particular week, years ago, when saying yes to everything nearly cost you something. A stretch of favors and gatherings and calls you felt you owed, back to back. By the end of it, you could not remember a single conversation clearly, exhausted. Your body told you before your mind caught up. A tightness in the chest. A shortened temper. Sleep that did not land properly, no matter the hours given. That week taught you something a decade of casual socializing never had, plainly. Depletion does not always look dramatic. Sometimes it looks like quiet disappearing. Inside your own overcommitted calendar, smiling the whole way through it, unnoticed by anyone. You never let a week look like that again, deliberately, ever since. Notice, too, what your home has become for the people who come inside it. The niece who visits because your kitchen feels like the only unhurried place in her week. The friend who calls your porch her favorite therapy session, free of charge. The neighbor who lingers at your gate longer than the weather requires, warmly. Because something about your doorway feels like an exhale, quietly, to everyone who visits. You built a house that gives something back to the handful who matter. Instead of scattering your energy thin across everyone who might, that is not isolation. That is a woman who figured out where her presence does the most good. So here is the truth underneath the whole conversation. You did not give up on the world. You simply stopped needing it to prove you were living well, on anyone's terms. A full calendar was never the actual goal. It was a stand-in for something real. Something you have now built directly, on purpose, inside your own front door. Contentment that does not require witnesses. Peace that nobody has to validate. You are allowed to prefer your own company to a party you would forget by Tuesday. You are allowed to let the invitation sit unanswered for a day. Then decline it without guilt trailing behind the message. Cleanly, simply. And if anyone asks why you would rather stay in tonight, you owe no long version. The short version is enough, and it happens to be true, entirely. You built something in there worth staying for, and it shows, quietly. So tonight, look at that porch light again, the one that has stayed off for 6 years. Because nobody needed to leave to feel like they arrived somewhere good. It was never about hiding, it was about finally being home, in every sense. Sit with that, if you want, I will sit with it too. We do not have to figure out the rest tonight.